microchipped. Not microchipped in the sense of implanting a microchip that will provide information like people implant microchips into their pets. But radio tracking collars are fitted to various animals, and that is to follow their movements and get an understanding of where they spend their time during different seasons, the type of distances they travel, the kind of composition of the number of individuals that they associate with. Data that scientists, people that are doing their university theses, their PhDs, they study these animals and write up a thesis. Spatial use and prey preferences of a predator perhaps, or spatial use and seasonal movement of the African elephant. Those kind of scientific papers. And a lot of interesting information comes out of it, actually. Learning how far elephant move during the different seasons. It's not that they migrate, but they do utilize different areas. Different areas have, well, not only different rainfall, but different soil conditions, and different soil conditions, different rainfall dictates different types of vegetation, and the different types of vegetation are utilized at different times of the year for whatever reason elephants use that vegetation in the first place, whether it's the bark or the fruit or the leaves or the roots for that matter. Well, that rain that is up there in the northeast is still moving north, so from there eyes on from the south. While we're moving south, let's carry on. And then someone wants to know whether we feed any of the animals here in the park. Simple and straightforward answer, no we don't. Kruger National Park is very large. We are talking about maybe, oh my word, there's a crab. Look at this. We haven't seen one of these for a long time. Very, very far from water. And we can get it while it's still on the road. This is a freshwater crab. It's one of the few crustaceans we have here. What was it? There's a photograph of that. I might run away if I go close to it. This is a freshwater crab, and freshwater crabs are not fully aquatic. They don't spend all of their time in the water. They tend to spend a lot of time on land. It's not very far from water. The area we were looking at a few minutes ago looks out over the bushveld, but there's what we call a drainage line, an area down below us where water collects, and this heavy rain would have developed puddles, if not even a little bit of a trickle in that stream near the old hyena den. And this crab has either come up from that or is heading down to that. Just to the right of the crab is an area where there must have been a puddle after the rain 2 nights ago. Probably what brought the crab up here. Could have only maybe come up as water was flowing down the slope because we were on the top of a slope. And being a very sensitive creature, it'll be able to find its way, hopefully, eventually, back to water. I'm just going to see if I can get a photograph of it if it doesn't run away. Now that is an unusual find. Not exactly an endangered animal, but just a very unusual one to find. If we were down on one of the main rivers or some of the larger permanent watercourses, or water points, dams, lakes, we might see more of them. They generally have burrows right on the edge of the water, and the bottom of the burrow would have water in it, but they will live within the burrow that is mostly dry, and it's at the bottom of the burrow that they would have their eggs. Interesting find, very interesting find. It's baby actually. They get to be quite big. In fact, there are places that cultivate or rather farm freshwater crabs for the commercial market. Right, next one was talking about the size of the area. I just want to also that easily where I live. That's what keeps me going in life. I love every little thing around here, and I can be talking to you about something and then I'll see something and I'll cut myself off in mid-sentence because I'll find something amazing. So getting back to the last question about whether we feed animals or not, I was trying to explain that this area is exceptionally large. I don't know how I could equate it in Australian terms. I mean, Australia, you have that vast central region of Australia that is just, well, there's very little here in Africa that can match it. But we're part of an area that is probably about 30 to 40,000 square kilometers, 3 to 4 million hectares, call it about 7.5 million acres worth of bushveld. So it is such a large area that the animals here live their natural life. They engage in their natural behavior. There is no interference in terms of providing food or giving help when an animal is sick. It's very much like the outback in that respect. Animals that live out there are left to their own devices. In fact, it's vitally important that everything just continues the way nature designed it, because it is only through the natural process of, well, natural selection for whatever species you're talking about, the effects of excessive rainfall like we've had this season, or the effects of drought. It is important that these things take place to not only help control the numbers of animals, but also to maintain a very strong gene pool within each species, because at the changing in conditions and the ability of, well, it's the ability of animals to adapt to all the changes that take place climatically, or well, yes, mostly climatically. It determines whether they're good enough to continue the species. In other words, the old story about the strongest surviving is true to a large extent, because you need the strongest individual within a species to be the one that reproduces, to make strong individuals. Well, Caitlin, morning to you, Caitlin. Caitlin wanted to know if last week there was a little baboon about to be born. Caitlin wants to know if it's okay. Caitlin, as far as we know, it hasn't been born yet. We're still waiting for it to be born. Let's see if we can catch up with the troop this morning. We'd only have half an hour with you guys, so I don't think we will. We'll have to make a plan to do that on the next morning that you're with us. There's I guess a remote possibility that they might come this way. They tend to be moving towards the south from their their nighttime sleeping spot, which is at Vuyatela Lodge. And then the question was clarified, what is the most endangered species of all the ones that I mentioned? I'm still trying to think which one would be the most endangered. And what the criteria are to what is it that makes it so endangered? And I think if we had to look at something like the cheetah, for example, I mean, wild dog are probably more endangered than the cheetah, but wild dog have quite a large diversity in their gene pool. In other words, there are so many, how can I explain this? The gene pool within the wild dogs is great enough that, I've got a tick, interesting one. I haven't photographed this one before. Show you what a tick looks like. This is a tick that this is a tick that is not likely to bite a human. If we can get it on my hand and you can see it. Oh, my hat. Always my hat in the way. My hat is an Akubra, by the way. Good old Australian hat. This is a tick with an exceptionally large mouth part. So it's probably a rhino tick or an elephant tick. Probably the male as well. The female is normally a big grey round thing engorged with blood. Member of the spider family. The ticks are arachnids. As you can see, there are 4 legs on each side, 8 legs. And well, I'm going to put the tick back in the bush. Lives another day. I'm going to have to think about which is the most endangered. I was just saying, with wild dog, they're diverse enough that if anything happened to the population, you're likely to have at least a couple of them surviving. Whereas cheetah, their gene pool, you know, the cheetah over Africa have that the population can be threatened by something as simple as a disease that is really particular to the cheetah. Yeah, there's something like this, the black-footed cat as well, a very small cat. Numbers are questionable. I'd have to think about what would be considered the most endangered. Maybe black rhino, but their numbers are fairly good. But for here in the Kruger, I'd have to think about what would be the most endangered. Then we have a question about leopards and what do leopards eat. Leopards are wonderful animals. Because they're solitary, they don't hunt in groups, they tend to stick to mainly small prey items. But large leopards, a big male leopard can eat anything like even a zebra. Smallish zebra, not a big male zebra, but certainly a young female. I've seen a big male leopard that killed a baby giraffe, and took a baby giraffe up a tree. But now just remember, the baby giraffe, a newborn giraffe, is actually quite small. It's tall, but its weight is less than a zebra. I mean, it only weighs about 120 kilograms. But that's still a lot heavier than the leopard, and the leopard is able to take twice its own weight into a tree. But leopards are very much opportunist, and you find leopards all over Africa that are living on things like birds and insects and reptiles and maybe hares. We don't have rabbits here, fortunately. Otherwise we'd probably have somebody making something like a Kubra hat. But yeah, one of the most common animals that we have, one of the animals with the largest numbers, is the impala, and I'd say that the impala is probably the perfect size for a leopard. Excuse me. And so I'd say impala make up the bulk of a leopard's diet. Some of the smaller antelope as well, there's the duiker and the steenbok. Then what was that other question? Oh, is it? Another question I'd have to think about is, are there any animals here that have become extinct? Or are there what animals that used to live here that are now extinct? What are you shouting at, Franklin? I've got to find you some animals, because I don't think you're all going to be with me for very long. That's cool. Coming up on after 3 o'clock your time in Melbourne, I guess, and it means that you're going to be going home pretty soon. What can I think of that has become extinct? I'd have to think about it. And then a question of how fast is leopard and a cheetah? We're going to go back up towards those road, almost back to where we saw that crab, so we can go and have a look up that way. Although maybe not. I'm just thinking, we've got to find you some animals before we all go home. It has been raining and the ground is pretty wet. These kind of conditions do keep animals in hiding a little bit. But the one animal, or the one type of animal that should be out and about is a cat. And that's what I've been hoping to find you, is one of the cats. Since you don't really have any big cats in Australia, or large predators. Well, now leopards and cheetah have different lifestyles. Leopard don't really run. You see, leopard lives in pretty dense bush most of the time, and their hunting method is to stalk something, to get really close to something and then pounce on it. So it's a stalking predator. And there's a giraffe. There you go. Got some giraffe for you guys. And I'll have to talk about leopards and cheetah while we're watching the giraffe, and I hope the giraffe don't get spooked because I'm talking about leopards and cheetahs. Although cheetah don't hunt giraffe, and these giraffe are too big for a leopard, they shouldn't get too scared when I talk about leopard and cheetah. This is 3 giraffe. We're just going to see if we can get a better view of them. Morning, madam. And she's doing something very unusual. I'm watching the way she's eating, the way she's throwing her head about. She's not eating vegetation at the moment. It might be quite interesting to see what she's up to. Binoculars. I didn't get to finish any of those questions. Just quickly, if you're still watching, Leopard don't run very fast, but cheetah do, and cheetah will run on average about 75, 80 kilometers an hour when they're in the hunt, but they can run a lot faster. But it's the bush and the constant turning and changing direction that makes it not possible to run as much as 100, 110, which they can get to. So goodbye to you guys. Thanks for joining us this morning. I know you will be joining us again one of these days. And I guess goodbye everybody. To the kids that are leaving in Melbourne, going home, do your homework. Have fun and see you soon. But this giraffe, it must be, I think I can smell them. Smelling something strong, and it's not elephant musk. She must be chewing on a bone. She's holding her head up so that it keeps the solid object that she's got in her mouth, keeps it way back in at the molars, because she doesn't really have the ability to move it around her mouth. Despite having that lovely prehensile tongue, once something's in her mouth, like a bone, she needs to use gravity to help keep it towards the back of her mouth where she can chew on it. And she would be chewing on a piece of bone, an old piece of bone that's probably flaking with calcium, to be able to increase her calcium in her body. Giraffe, such big bones, need to take in a lot of calcium, more than what they get out of their normal diet of leaves. She's making such beautiful face movements that you could probably put words to it. Now this is a young female that's coming. Now stop there, young lady. Thank you. So we can see the two of you. See the difference in the chewing. You can see this young female in the front. Well, she was chewing leaves. You can see how the mouth moves in a very different way to when they're chewing on a piece of bone. She's smelling her mom. Look at that. She wants to know what mom's got. I want some, mommy. And the third one is a young male, a little boy. She on a small piece of bone. I think that little turn that she did there was to tell them, come along children. Must be her daughter and her son. We're going to move because they're going to come up onto the road now. Oh, this is pathetic. Come little boy, catch up. The young males always lag behind. Doesn't matter what species they are. Ah. Good on. Incredible burst of speed giraffe are capable of. Running to catch up to mom. I think the young female is waiting for Mom to drop that piece of bone so that she can get it. She's picking something up off of the ground. Smelling something on the ground. This is close to where the buffalo kill was, so there's probably a few bones lying around here too. I have no doubt. There was a buffalo kill here a few months ago. Some lions killed a buffalo. Naturally, I was on leave. The lions have an uncanny knack of doing that to me. Good morning, Valerie. Wanting to know if giraffe can have twins. Not to my knowledge, Valerie. Maybe, sure, maybe it has been recorded, maybe with zoos breeding giraffe, maybe they managed to produce twins, but in nature, to my knowledge, not. It would basically divide up the resources between two individuals rather than giving all of them to one individual. I wonder if we can see them. Let me try and go further forward, Herman, so we can maybe, because they are almost right here where this buffalo kill was. So these both youngsters are bending down, sniffing things on the ground. So instead of having one weak individual born, or rather one individual born that's likely to be strong enough to survive, if there were twins, you'd have two weaker individuals, two individuals that would stray in the resources of the mother. Greater chance of predation having two youngsters. So it's not really practical for large mammals to have twins. In fact, it's not really practical for mammals in the bush to have twins, period, because of predators and predation. What have we got? Some tracks in the road. Apart from baboon tracks going home. That must have been last night. And there are hyena tracks here too. And another crab's tracks. That's very interesting. Crabs moving about. I wonder if we're getting even more rain coming. Right, little boy has now picked up a bone. I'm going to see if we can try and somehow get to see them. It's not easy to just even turn the vehicle into the bush there. Let's just try here, turn around and face the other way. But here is a very unusual sighting for you. A family of giraffe nibbling on bones of a buffalo. And we can be sure about that because we have seen the buffalo kill here. Are a little bit deep in. How's that looking? There, the little boy's got one and he's trying to move it around his mouth, throwing his head back, and he's just spat it out. It's probably a bit too big for him. She doesn't seem to have picked up anything yet. And Mom has gone back to eating leaves. Daughter now eating leaves. No, she wants a bone. Leading by example. That's how animals learn. These youngsters are learning from their mother. They see Mom doing something, they want to do it too. The body craves something, somehow the body finds what it's craving. This is called osteophagia. The process is known as osteomastication. Now they engage in another activity which is unusual, and that is they will eat earth. They will eat soil in some cases. Nothing like what we have in the road here, which is just sand. The nutrients have all been washed out of it. But maybe places like old termite mounds or the banks of rivers where it has eroded into a solid bank and they can get to minerals and salts, and that is called geophagia, eating the ground. Now she's got a little bone now, tossing her head around. Thank you very much, Penny. Penny just confirming what I was talking about with regards to giraffe and twins. Evidently there is a record of stillborn twins being born on a reserve near Kruger, outside of Kruger, probably an area where there are no predators and large population of giraffe. But evidently no records in Kruger of giraffe twins being born. You see, what would happen if there was a gene for giraffe twins and twins would be born? Their vulnerability alone would mean that they could get eaten very quickly, or they would be so susceptible to so many things that they would die off, and then of course that would take away that gene, the recessive gene for producing twins. And so that is one of the reasons why one wouldn't get twins, because it just doesn't exist within the gene pool. Because if it was kind of a non-entity, a non sequitur. If they were twins, they would die or be eaten very quickly, and they wouldn't be able to pass on the gene, or the gene for producing twins. Penny can tell me what Penny thinks is the most endangered animal in Kruger. Got a big bone now. That's a rib. What she's got in her mouth now is one of the ribs of the buffalo. Actually, one of the few bones, and it's actually quite easy for them to get fragments of that bone because it's such a thin, flat bone. And although on the buffalo the rib cage forms a very strong protective shield for the lungs and the heart. In fact, the buffalo's ribs are quite unique in that they are flat and they overlap each other. But once the buffalo's dead and they've been chewed on a little bit by hyenas to get to a bit of the inner marrow of it, they start becoming brittle quite quickly. And they're one of the few bones that's actually really good to chew on for the likes of some of the large mammals like kudu and giraffe. Sticking out of her mouth like a cigar. I've seen a giraffe chewing on a bone, one of the long bones with a ball on the end, the ball that fits into the socket, and it stuck out of the giraffe's mouth with the ball sticking out on the end, and it very much looked like a giraffe with a pipe in its mouth. See if I can move forward for you a little bit, try and get to see this female with the buffalo ribs sticking out of her mouth. No, they're kind of behind bushes mostly, and she's dropped the big one, I think. Yeah, see her head above. No, she's moving. Okay, we're going to move on. They might be moving up towards Treehouse Dam. We'll keep it in mind and maybe come back this way. Right now I think we'll go back up towards... Where should we go? Let me find out from the guys if anyone's out. Morning guys, anyone out this morning? Good. Yeah, just wanting an update, wanting to know who's out on drive.
Nothing inside Western Derby.
Thanks, Henry. It's just you out today.
I didn't check my, I just checked those roads, Palaplane. Now I'm on the Bari, Katlana. I want to Pampa North for West.
Okay, copied. Is it only you out from Vuyatela?
I'm the only one, yeah, all Mlungus are out here.
Okay, thanks. Uh-huh. Oh. There's some elephant tracks coming this way. Lovely to have the dip full of water again. A bunch of terrapins in the water. Hyenas have been through the water. Morning, Linda. Morning, terrapin. Linda's asking, the giraffe chewing on bone, is that to get to the marrow as well? No, not the marrow, Linda, but by this stage of decomposition, or the stage of the game, the marrow has all gone. There's no marrow left in those bones, and they tend to mostly only go for older bones that are already starting to flake and powder. And yes, I imagine females would do that after birth, I suppose, while they're pregnant as well. I mean, that female is lactating. I did notice that. And that calf is probably a bit too old. And maybe she's pregnant already with her next one. Just don't know. But yes, calcium needs to be taken in constantly, but there would obviously be a greater need for it after a birth. Well, Henry has already been up to Impala Plains and Zoe's Road. Instead of taking Rebecca's Road, I'm just having a look. There were some elephant tracks heading this way on Weaver's Nest. I'm just going to have a look and see if we can see if an elephant came up this way. It's like a bull, single bull. Oh, brand new web, and I've got to move through it. I'm sorry, golden orb. A lot of them, after that heavy rain, most of these golden orbs are going to be spinning new webs. So a lot of the roads that haven't been driven in the last day or two are going to have tracks, or rather webs. I'm looking at tracks, and my brain thought tracks. That's a hyena track. Sorry, little dove. Cloud is starting to break up a little bit. Yep, and these big elephant tracks now coming out onto the road. I'm going to head up Quarantine, see if he didn't maybe head that way. Where are his tracks? Oh, were they? Oh, I didn't see that. They probably crossed during the night. Well, let's go and have a look. We're very so, you know, we so often start here on the open area called Quarantine. We very seldom come here during a drive. We need to do that more often, going on in the evenings when the animals come out onto the open area. Since it is our only open area of value for animals. Lone wildebeest bull on the western edge, looking up this way, looking at something up this way. Not seeing anything. Not seeing anything here that he could be looking at. Maybe he's just looking this way and calling, hoping for an answer. Peggy, morning Peggy. Excuse me, Hornbill. Gee, child, get some road sense. Peggy wants to know if giraffe could choke on the bones. Well, I suppose, Peggy, I guess so. Could be possible. We're all the same, really. Something goes to the back of the throat and the larynx closes up. It's possible. I think most of the time the bones are a little bit too big for them to choke on. What are you shouting at, little squirrel? Another squirrel shouting. I think he's reacting to it. Yeah. What? Well, we had Franklin shout. We're very near camp, and we had Franklin shouting near camp this morning, in camp. I think we need to take a drive down towards the entrance to camp. Actually, there's a squirrel going crazy down there that we need to take a look at. Oh yes, impala running. I don't know if they just, let's go and have a look. I don't know, maybe they're just doing lion drill. But I just saw an impala flag signaling. Something's going on down here. Maybe just impala running. Yeah, I think it's just impala having fun. Or it could be a leopard watching them, waiting for its moment to pounce. Oops! Dwarf mongoose. Run out into the road. Child, you also need a bit of road sense. Now, there's an impala up ahead of us that are a little bit too relaxed. They don't seem to be taking too much notice of the squirrel shouting. What's your problem, Hornbill? Intent on getting something in the road. noise was a female on the right just calling the youngsters out. A lot of the herd is off to the left in thick bush, and they're all making their way out onto the open. But no alarm calls, and doesn't seem to be any disturbance here. Just the youngsters that were running around. Okay, we move on. Where about did you see elephants? Oh, there. We might have moved out past them. We're going to do a loop. Beautiful morning, a little bit of sunshine coming through the cloud now. Hello, mongoose. Penny, thanks for that. Penny just getting back to me on the top of the endangered list. Now I know that the riverine rabbit and one of the golden moles, in fact there's a golden mole in Pretoria that's on the top of the list. But we were just talking about here in Kruger. I'm hoping, Penny, that you could tell me if you know what the most endangered species is here in Kruger. But the riverine rabbit is probably one of South Africa's most endangered animals. That lives in the marshlands down in the Cape. No riverine rabbits in Kruger, they don't occur up here. Thank you, Penny. Confirming that most endangered in the park is probably the wild dog. Sable, also the tsessebe. And evidently, a species of bat has been recently added to the list. Elephant came down this way. Bamboo, most endangered animal in South Africa. Now we're on to that subject. Is probably the riverine rabbit. As I said earlier. Also, as Penny mentioned, there's a species of golden mole that is becoming critically endangered, and that is as a result of human development. Now what happens is, you see, the golden mole lives in exceptionally large colonies, underground colonies. They're not beautiful light here on the dam. You see, we can turn around and look at the dam from an angle up here. The sun coming through, looking up towards the lodge. I'm just going to stop and listen to some things. Turn around the book. Now what has happened is, these golden mole colonies are only as strong as when their numbers are big, when they're in a complete colony, in the way that they live their lives. Now along comes a developer, clears an area of land, put up hundreds of townhouses or a shopping complex right in the middle of a colony of golden moles, and fragments the colony, and then suddenly one has a fragmented colony, and a fragmented colony loses its integrity, loses its cohesive ability to survive. Elephant was here. He came down here to drink. We'll see if we can follow his tracks in a minute. And it's that fragmenting of this particular species of golden mole that only lives in this one area, in an area around Pretoria, that is now proving to be the demise of the species. They've only, of course, discovered this now after development, after land has been ploughed and or built on. Golden moles, as with all moles, are fossorial. They live underground, and they just can't cope with what humans do to their habitat. Another critically endangered species, funnily enough, is a little toad down in the Cape, known as the leopard toad, Buphopardalis. And that is because of development, because of pollution of its breeding grounds. Most extinctions, most species that are threatened these days are threatened as a result of human interference, human destruction, human habitat eradication. Let's move on. Hello Kevin, haven't heard from you for a while, if I'm not mistaken. You've heard from Kevin in the past. Kevin in New Zealand, and I hope New Zealand is an church. Kevin wants to know the gestation period of a giraffe. I think it's about 16 months, Kevin, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me. where did our elephant go after he drank? He didn't go down Central Road, so he must have headed up Mbubu Road. I think we'll go up Mbubu Road. You see, when we look at an animal like the sable antelope, that is an endangered species. The sable antelope is not necessarily endangered because of human habitat destruction, or rather, let's keep the humans out of it. We all know that humans are to blame. We'll just call it habitat loss. And habitat loss is probably responsible for most mammals, most extinctions, flora and fauna. And we are losing, I don't know how many numbers of species a day. We're losing several species a day at the current rate of habitat loss that is taking place around the globe. However, when we look at an animal like the sable antelope, that looks quite fresh. Bush willow across the road. We know who the culprit is. Elephant we're trying to find. Sable are one of these animals that is going through a natural extinction. It would appear so. There was a cousin of the sable that lived in the Eastern Cape when Europeans first settled in South Africa. It was known as the bluebuck. It was somewhat similar to sable in that it had the decurved horns. Golden orb coming through. And yes, perhaps the bluebuck was hunted to extinction by the first settlers, but evidence shows that their numbers weren't that great to begin with, and that although fossorial evidence showed that they existed in numbers in the past, it was only the fact that humans only hastened their demise. Here the elephant tracks are coming through here, and he's walked along the road a little bit, so we should find him soon, I hope. He hasn't gone to Buffalo. You see, nature is really quite an incredible thing. Oh, he's a big elephant. He is a big elephant. Within an environment that we have here, yes, good morning, Kingfisher. Within this environment, there are so many different species to fulfill a particular niche, and that particular niche is merely for life to carry on, for things to live and grow and be eaten, and we've put back Gary. Gary is, my word, is big. Wow. I mean, I'm looking, he's obviously standing on higher ground, but I'm looking probably, I'm just going to stop right here because, what, that's got to be 20 feet up there to his head. Now that's not because he's 20 feet tall. I'm just saying that his head is 20 feet above us because he's probably standing on a termite mound or something, eating off with a spike thorn at the back there. Morning, Squire. He's got a stick on his head. Okay, we're going to go, we can't see him obviously, you can just see the bush shaking, so I'm going to go forward and we'll try and turn around and face him again, if he lets me. Oh, he's fine, he's feeding. Wow, that was quite amazing, looking up to an elephant like that, standing on something. Still feeding. I was hoping he would come this way. It's nice to see all the little mud wallows that had dried up that we were looking at. They're all full of water again from this rain. There's been so much rain one night. I'd like to actually know how much that was. It was probably at least 50-60 millimeters. Find out from the lodge if anybody checked the rain gauge, or I'll go and see. It might not have even been emptied yet. Go and have a look at that. Right, don't have very big tusks, but you are quite a big-bodied elephant. This is the ellie that must have been up there on Weaver's Nest, came through Philemon's Dip up to Quarantine, and then drank some water at the dam, pushed a bushwiller over the road, and now this is him here. Temples are quite sunken. That can have or it can indicate a state of poor condition as well as age, but his temples are very deep. So far not seeing anything that tells me who he is, that I know him. Not seeing anything particular yet. No sign of him being in must. His left tusk is a little thicker than the right. Not such great tusks. And of course it doesn't give me any indication of how old he is just looking at his tusks. Yes, come say hello to me, please. Come on. Come on. He's a tall boy. Morning, Squire. Gotta clean those toenails of yours. He's probably only in his late 20s, early 30s. But he's got pretty big feet and very, very tall. Not so big in body, and his head isn't really that big. Look at that vein sticking out on his leg, Herman. His back leg. Or it's an artery rather. Probably his femoral. Sticking out in the back leg there. What was that all about? Just a tiny nick out of his left ear. He's looking a bit skinny. Like his skin's hanging on him. What in Love on Mvubu Road? Need to move up a little. Not great to approach an elephant from behind. He is keeping an eye on me out of the corner of his eye, and Of course he can hear me. That's about as far as I want to go. Just so that he knows that I don't want to move him on, I don't want to chase him, I don't want to appear to be disturbing him, as long as he carries on feeding and wagging his tail. Good morning, Lisa. Lisa wants to know how to guess or gauge or tell the age of an elephant. Some people say the dents in the head or the tusks. Some people say not. Well, Lisa, some of the only ways of telling age of elephants is actually to see their teeth, not the tusks. The tusks have absolutely nothing to do with age. The tusks are genetic. You can get a 50-year-old elephant with small tusks or no tusks. The tusks do continue to grow. The rate at which they grow is determined by genes. Not the rate, but the length in which they eventually get to. That is determined by genetics more than age. You can get you can find a elephant half the age of this one with longer tusks, or tusks the same length. So tusks are not an indicator of age. Those dents in the temples, well, to some degree, yes. I mean, old elephants do. But you can get an elephant that's feeling a little bit under the weather, a little bit sick, will have hollow temples. So that's not an indication. One of the things is the size of the feet. There is a correlation between the diameter of the foot and the age of the elephant. And somewhere in my papers, I've got a scientific study that was done that... We've got all the graphs and all the details about gauging an elephant's age from the size of its feet. There is, perhaps one can look at size of the elephant, overall size, the height, the body size in relation to its legs and its head size. But one can only really guess. The only real way to look at an elephant or to tell an elephant's age is by checking the teeth and which set of molars are in use and which set of molars are being pushed forward, which set of molars are coming through the back of the mouth. And when he turned around and he started coming towards us, I was willing him to stand in front of me and open his mouth so that I could see his teeth. He just wasn't really accommodating when it came to that. It's not easy to get an elephant to come and stand in front of you and open his mouth so you can see his teeth. For me personally, it's more a case of just having been with elephants most of my life and trying to get watching them grow up, and looks like it's going back to the dam, going back towards the lodge. We can follow him a little bit. If you try and think of guessing the age of humans up until about the age of 30, it's a very similar thing. See, elephants grow and age almost on a par with us, and consequently, if you think of the ratio between young humans and adult humans, that sort of the size difference, you can try and use the same thing, the same gauge. I wonder if we can do what I did with the buffalo that day. You can do a focus pull with the thorns in the elephant. Maybe not. Maybe it's a little bit too thorny. And he's moving anyway. Let's see, he might be going back down towards the water. I'm in a bit of a difficult area here because if I go off road it's going to be very wet and muddy. We're going to follow him a little bit as he makes his way back towards the dam. might be lucky enough to watch him go and have a drink. Good morning, Chris. Interesting question. Now, he's going right down in front of the rooms. I don't know if we'll be able to see him. We can certainly try. Oh, sorry, Herman. Chris is saying that his spine seems to be very well defined. Is there something wrong with him? No, Chris. As I said, he's looking a little bit skinny. He's looking a little bit out of condition, and that might make his spine a little bit more prominent. But generally speaking, elephants have got an exceptionally large spine. I mean, their backbone has to be able to carry that weight. I don't think we'll get down to the dam through here, but he will. I don't think I've ever gotten down to the dam through here. Go around this drainage line. One will see that most elephants, all elephants really, African elephants, show a very prominent spine. I'm just looking at him. I think his skin is hanging on him a little bit. And the fact that his temples are as hollow as they are does indicate to me that he is a little unwell. His feet are showing good. Well, you see, another thing is that their feet would, and I think from what I've seen so far, his feet aren't showing too much of a problem. The wrinkles in an elephant's feet, when they lose condition, the underneath of their feet, their feet tend to swell a little bit, so you don't see those wrinkles so much. The wrinkles, the prints, like our fingerprints. You get to see that in an elephant's track. Hello, lapwings. A pair of blacksmith lapwings on the ground. Ting, 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 ting. A pair of francolins. A pair of doves. Morning, birds. Birdies. Yep, here he comes. Let's see, perhaps we can wait here. Right in front of us is the hippo nursery tree, deep in the water. It's funny, when the water is so low, you wonder how the water could ever reach it. Anyways, I'm digressing. Here comes our... You see, from a distance, he's looking quite healthy. And now that he's standing out in the open away from trees and he's not standing on a termite mound, he's not that big. revise my age estimate. Late 20s maybe. Mid to late 20s. He is quite tall. Hello, young man. Hello, my friend. Need to try and be a little bit flatter, more level. And Love now at Gowrie Dam. Interesting heron in this leadwood in front of us. Single mud and Love. Negative. Mud and Love at Gowrie Dam.
Okay, so thanks. Any Yari around there?
No, not yet.
Okay, thanks.
Before I go, there's a half-collared kingfisher in this leadwood, the hippo nursery tree, but there is also a juvenile. No, that's not a juvenile. That's a bittern. It is a towards the top, not those spiky ones sticking out at the top, but we're at about 11 o'clock. It's still fluffy. It's a juvenile. It's probably not flying it. It's crawling around through the tree there. It's coming out at about 10 o'clock now in that leadwood. No, it's behind some branches.
Yeah.
There are two there. Two youngsters. And they look like... well, they could be grey, juvenile greenbacks. And see a lot of fluff on them. Anyways, we're missing out on an elephant. But interestingly, there's a half-collared kingfisher in there as well. No, we've got a buffalo thorn in the way. Best would be to go back onto the wall. If we can make it there in time. Oops. Hidden tree trunk. Tree trunk. I'm sure Craig has him on to the waterhole cam. Any of you want to maybe whoops, a little bit precarious there on the side. Don't slip down, Land Rover. pushing it to the limit here on the side angle. Spillway's filled up with water, but it's not from overflow from the dam, it's just filled up with water. There we go. Laurie wanting to know if that was the Stichosaurus we just saw. No, that was the leadwood tree that's in, normally on the edge of the dam, but because the water level is so high, it's actually in the water. That's what we call the hippo nursery. So that's where 2 years running, 2009 and last year 2010, we had hippos born here at Gowrie Dam, and both youngsters were kept underneath that leadwood during the day, during the heat of the day. You lost him behind the tree now. Okay. Time to turn around again. Lynn in Canada, you're quite right, Lynn. I was thinking of it, didn't mention it. But Lynn was saying one animal we weren't talking about that is also endangered is the roan antelope, cousin of the sable. And yes, very much so, Lynn. Quite correct. The roan is also a threatened species. But also, I still didn't really get to finish my story about roan and sable. I'm going to stay down here in the dip. Hopefully he's going to come along the bank, looking up to an elephant.
Nearby of the Puzera pit. Just two other boys from Jordan, close by that
Ephraim, come in. Don't know if you copied, but there's a law at Gowrie Dam. No, just one my daughter at the moment. This is a beautiful marula tree that is approaching now. Lovely shape. Where is he off? Suddenly picked up a bit of speed. He's supposed to stand here and pose with this lovely shaped marula tree. wonder, maybe he's suddenly connected. He's got a trunk call from somebody. Picked up a bit of speed. Okay, we're gonna follow him. But just getting back to roan and sable, you know, they are probably quite an old species on the planet. And he just decided to pick up speed and then stopped. And the function that they perform is actually being performed better by the likes of impala. The niche that they fulfill. And since impala are able to do it easier, better, more adaptable, and they fit in with the environment better, I think impala are actually phasing out the likes of roan and sable as a mixed grazer, mixed feeder. I think he was just standing still and listening, probably for other elephants. Smelling something. See how he turned like that quickly? He picked up the scent of something and he just turned into the wind there a bit. Contemplating his next move. Move up a little bit. See, when he suddenly starts walking like that, it's almost as though he's made contact with the elephants and he's now heading towards them, and then he walks like that and then he stops and feeds. He's looking at, I'd say he is looking just a little bit thin on the hips there. Not enough meat on his bones. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's unhealthy. His sunken temples give some indication that he's not in shape. But you get skinny humans and you get rounder humans. Do you think you could get this? Too close. Go move it a little bit. There's a katydid on the top of a wild foxglove. elephant in the background.
No, I'm not on the right one now.
On my hand there.
Yeah, please. Where's your hand? What do I say you just did again?
Hang on. Getting caught up. Getting tied up in my earpiece.
Okay.
So you got him.
Yeah.
Him is actually a her. A female katydid. Very much smaller than the one we had on the vehicle that day. It's a completely different species. That is an adult, fully grown adult female katydid of that type of katydid. Okay. Try not to move it too much getting in. Maybe you just got to lift it up a little bit.
Yeah, I did. And climbed in.
And then I climbed in and my 80 kilograms sunk the suspension on the right hand side of the vehicle so much that you lost the frame.
Exactly what happened.
Okay, we have to go. We've got an elephant tail. Follow me, I'm right behind you. Now, I know that is a female katydid because she has an ovipositor. An ovipositor is a special organ that female grasshoppers, crickets, katydids, wasps, so many of the insects that has, and that egg. Egg, positor, as in reposit, deposit. Question from Chris again, wanting to know about wild dog. I'll get to that shortly, Chris. Oh, there's a tiny gardenia growing here. Transvaal gardenia. Now once again, he stopped. His trunk was relaxed, almost flat on the ground. All the muscles in the trunk were relaxed on the ground. He's actually dragging his trunk now. He's sniffing the ground. He's got his trunk to the ground. I wonder if he's just stopping and relaxing and listening. He has just deposited some dung and a couple of starlings and a hornbill that have just arrived close to his dung. Probably hoping to find things in it or around it. Interesting news from Chris about wild dog is that evidently there have been about 10 pups born in Chicago. Chris wanting to know, will that ever help the population? Could they ever be released into the wild? Well, his dung looks healthy enough, this elephant. Chris, difficult question. You know, yes. What on earth are you up to, Temple? Let me get back to the wild dog question in a minute. Just finish with the elephant. I mean, he was just doing something rather strange. Almost like he was sitting down on his hind leg, on his rear. It's a strange one, this elephant. The way he almost trots for a minute or two and then suddenly stops and feeds. Okay, well. using his left tusk as a lever to break those branches. Now if we get a close enough look at the tip of his left tusk, we'll see there's a groove that is starting to develop in his tusk where he uses it. Just got to wait. Good morning, Linda. Linda, no, sure. I don't know how you've seen that. Linda is saying that he's depositing dung irregularly. We've only just seen him deposit dung once. We haven't spent enough time with him to draw any conclusions about the regularity of his depositing dung. His dung seems to be fine. I don't think he's constipated, and the dung is compacting in his stomach as it does with older elephant losing their teeth. He seems to be feeding fine. If anything, I'm just saying, he kind of looks a little bit skinny, but no, I don't think there's anything wrong with his digestive system. I had a look at the color and the texture of his dung now as I passed it. There's no way. You'd have to watch an elephant for 24 hours or more to get some idea of how regular dung is, or how regular his digestive system is working. There's no way we can tell in such a short period of time something like that. I've only been with him for a few minutes. No, could be some other underlying thing. It's certainly got nothing to do with his stomach and his feeding and his bowel movements. Might not be anything wrong with him. Other than maybe a touch of narcolepsy, because he just suddenly stops doing things. And I think he's fine. His feet, the prints of his tracks look fine. That's showing that he's healthy. If he was really out of condition, his feet wouldn't be showing the prints that they do. If there was anything wrong with his teeth, he would probably be a little bit more irritable. He wouldn't be eating the way he is now. Pull it. Put in your mouth and walk backwards and pull it. So it's getting time to move to another tree, young man. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Well, I think we should leave him be. He's heading up Central Road, and we'll go up Gowrie Cut Line, up to Buffelshoek Cut Line, see what else we can find for the morning. Goodbye, young man. Station's leaving Locker 1 and Glove. He's heading east up Central Road towards the Giraffe Dip. It's interesting. Thanks, Linda. Linda's saying she saw him depositing dung twice and he bent his back legs like that. Only thing is that now when he deposited his dung and then he was bending his back legs for a completely different reason. I don't want to get too technical, but his was it Bertzel's cupola. I think it had more to do with an erect penis than anything else. But the fact that he did deposit dung twice in the time that we've seen him means that it is quite regular, means that his body function is quite normal. The amount of time we spent with him. Elephants do have a very regular stomach, constantly processing food. Food's got to be pushed out, make room for more, because they don't take in very much of what they don't digest very much of what they take in. But nice of you to observe that, Linda, and thanks for the comments. Someone we haven't seen for some time. I think he lives around here permanently, but we don't see him very. Oh, he's gone. Big waterbuck bull that we used to see here on Gowrie Cut Line quite often. Gone down into the Tambuti thicket and become quite shy, our waterbuck. Not as prominent as they were a couple of years ago. Maybe they'll come out of hiding again. I remember having a lot of waterbuck around the dam every day, all day. be towards the dry season. So many seed eaters here. Waxbills and firefinches. Big hyena track. Floppy ear. I wonder what's happened to Floppy ear. I haven't seen her for months. So, shall we do the fire break? Since there's been traffic on Buffelshoek cut line already. I think so. Well, come to think of it, there's no doubt dozens of spider webs on the fire break. Because nobody drives it. We may lose signal down the bottom here, it's quite a deep dip. Method to my madness. I'm down here because Yambilu Jordan was at Buffelshoek Dam 2 days ago. Unless he's been moving around in the last few hours, we don't really know where he went after that. But this is a we have a lot of time territory. We've seen him in this drainage line on kills a couple of times, a few times. Thought maybe there might be some sign of him down there, but morning mongoose. shining at me from the tall grasses. Maybe not so much shining at me as they are shining at the Land Rover. A couple of days ago, before the rain, we heard a bunch of tree frogs shouting at, or calling at Buffelshoek Dam, and well, there's a fresh nest in this little pan that has now filled up again. And tree frogs are a perfect example of what we would consider one of the crash breeders. A frog that has to breed quickly in the heavy rains. And it's probably one of the last periods of their breeding this time of the year, coming towards the end of the season. Just enough time perhaps for those tadpoles to reach maturity before it dries up and the dry season sets in. That would be a new nest from last night and the night before, towards the end of the rain. See, they can't make their nest during the rain because the rain would wash that foam away while they're making it. So when the rain stops and the tree frogs start making nests, you know you've got a day or two of no rain until it hardens a bit. And it only takes about, I think, a day or two for the froglets to develop. Within the nest, I mean, and then they drip down into the water. Okay, let's move on. Probably see a bunch of new nests at Buffelshoek Dam. fresh elephant activity here. Very fresh. Now, did they come from the dam or did they go to the dam? Can't even see that yet. Ground is a little bit hard to pick up tracks out here. And my guess is looks like they're still picking up a few marula fruits somewhere. Something's already been through that dunk. Looks like they were at the dam maybe. It's fairly fresh. Paradise flycatchers. They fly too fast to catch them, but we just had one fly by. Sorry girl, but this is not a good place to have a web. Much here at the dam, not even hippos. Going back to Nyala Road North. So you're breaking up there, then you get the end of that. Such a beautiful smell after the rain, and as I predicted, looking so much more greener than it was before the rain, because the grass blades close up and the leaves of some of the things close up. Some of the things, their leaves were hanging and drooping and wilting, and it's like everything has just opened up again. Transformation is rapid. Wonderful. I think we should just carry on along Nyala Road, cross over Central Road, carry on Nyala Road South. Something I haven't looked at for a long time. Actually, noticing how much it has changed and grown. But there's a fig that is eventually going to kill this tree. This is a big black monkey thorn. I just want to get out and show you something. What we're looking at trailing down the trunk of the tree are the aerial roots of this wild fig, and it is eventually going to become a strangler, and it's going to eventually kill this acacia. The bottommost root is about a foot off of the ground. I should have actually noticed this 2 years ago and tried to see, because the ones that we're looking at, the roots that are already developing their own sort of bark, the whiter pale ones, are the thicker ones. There's a very, very fine reddish root that runs down the fissures and the cracks in the bark. Now there's one very big one that comes out. That would have been broken by an elephant once upon a time, and it had to reroot. And there are a few more aerial roots growing there. Once they hit the ground, of course, it's going to speed up the development of this tree, because it's going to start getting different nutrients and things out of the ground. And eventually what will happen is these roots coming down will wrap all the way around the tree. Now as these roots grow, they just get thicker and thicker and thicker, and what happens is that the host tree, the acacia itself, then can't grow any further out, because it cannot stretch those roots. Those roots will become so thick and so set that as this tree grows, it actually strangles itself by growing into the roots of the fig, and it will eventually start cutting into its xylem, into its inner bark, which transports all the nutrients and the moisture up to its leaves, and that is what will eventually kill this tree. Now one of these days, maybe this afternoon, further up the road back towards Buffelshoek Dam, there's another strangler fig that has already gotten halfway through killing a leadwood. It must be a couple of 100 years old. This one probably well over 10, maybe 15 years that it's been up there. Been up there for quite some time. There's another tree growing there. It looks like it could be a jackalberry. There's another tree growing in another fork just lower down from the fig. It's not a fig. I'm not too sure what it is. But what else? We'll see what else happens is in the fork of a tree, a lot of debris collects, dust, plant material, and becomes a very rich little area for things to grow. I mean, that's where you find things like bromeliads growing in some of the rainforests. And well, I don't know, that tree might be doomed, but because it's gonna, well, it'll be stunted like a bonsai because of its lack of nutrients. But that fig, the fig will eventually become as big as this black monkey thorn in a couple of 100 years' time, a few 100 years. And then eventually what will happen is the host tree eventually dies and it all rots away. So you will find a network of very, very thick roots forming a tube, as it were, because of the rotting host tree in the center. Quite amazing. But it'll take many, many decades for it to kill off this tree. The tree might die before the fig even strangles it. This is a very, very big black monkey thorn, and it is about reaching the end of its lifespan. A lot of water down here in this little dry riverbed. Okay, well, it's not a dry riverbed anymore. It's not flowing. Quite a bit of standing water further back where the elephants dig for water. Nyala Road south, and we are heading south, following the edge of this riverbed that eventually flows into the Mulwati. Just on the other side of this riverbed is Bachelier Road. And where this road and this little riverbed meet the Mulwati, that is where we have Spaghetti Junction, or Spaghetti Crossing. So called because there are a number of roads that meet up. Rhino has been here, scraping his feet. That, my guess is, would be Shorthorn. Hello vulture, what you up to? Is this the same tree you saw that vulture yesterday? That's the same vulture. No thermals to fly yet. Must be the same vulture. Could be because vulture's nest is not far from us, and the road, and of course the vulture's nest could be. He's in the doghouse again, sleeping on the couch, as it were. No, that's too anthropomorphic. So not necessarily because there is something here. If there was, there'd be others. Just waiting for warm air thermals to go off and find a carcass. Go away, fly.
Should I just regurgitate something?
Pardon?
Just got something like making weird moves and then something came out of its mouth.
Oh, okay. I didn't. That's pity it's so thick underneath it. I wasn't watching because I've got a fly that is in my nose and my mouth, and that's ticklish.
It's happening again.
There again. What that could be is that's undigested material that it is regurgitating, like an owl coughs up a pellet, the same as all the insect-eating birds cough up little pellets with all the insect exoskeletons because they can't digest them. In the same way as that the grey lories and some of the other fruit-eating birds will cough up little pellets with seed that they can't digest. Okay, let's continue. The most common species of vulture that we have here in South Africa, that is the white-backed vulture. Seeing shapes in a big scotia. Scotia brachypatella. Hello Sandy. Sandy's raising an issue of some debate from the past about some elephants that were translocated when they were still children without adult supervision. Now in normal elephant society, what was that? Besides the starling, I thought I saw a mongoose. Normal elephant society, when you've got old bulls and cows and normal elephant society, young bulls, I don't know how their must is suppressed by the presence of old bulls. I don't know how that works, Sandy, but what happened was these young bulls without adult supervision were going through puberty, coming into must, and they were killing rhino. And eventually some big old bulls were brought into those areas, and it did suppress the must aggression in the younger bulls. However, it didn't really alleviate the problem, because ultimately you need cows and their discipline to have an influence on the aggression in young elephant bulls. But yes, the killing of the rhino did stop, and then it even got better once they did bring in family groups. How that happens, Sandy, I can't tell you. I don't know how it works. That in the present older bulls, younger bulls must behavior is suppressed. Probably it's a natural. Oh, wonder what that was. I'm gonna have to look at that again one day. There's a hole in a log, and I just saw a reptile's tail disappear. Could have been a lizard. Could have been a skink. Ah, there, tail's coming out again. The gecko. See the tail sticking out. Do you see where I'm looking, Herman?
Yeah.
Just the tail sticking out. I'm a little too close to focus with my binoculars. But I think its head is there as well.
Yeah, it is. Can't really see it on the camera.
No, I can't see it too well. Sorry about that. Ah, there we go. Head's popping out. Hello, gecko. Aren't you supposed to be in bed? Is it a gecko? No, it's not. If I didn't know any better, I'd say it's a juvenile plated lizard. Don't think I could get a photograph. I can try and then zoom in on it and then digitally enhance it. What setting should I put it on? Maybe that one. See if that works. Maybe that setting doesn't work with the flash. Let's try that setting. Starting to come out even more now. Can you see it?
Yeah, you can't see it on the camera, Mark. It's just
And if I,
zooming too far.
yeah, I see it. Also, I just can't get it too well. I mean, he's got the whole front of his body out now. Climbing out. Interesting lizard. I'm sorry, I've got to get a photograph of. Oh, he's gone. He saw me move. Okay. That doesn't work. Camera's only about a 5 megapixel camera, and zoom in on it, it gets all blurry. Okay, bye reptile. Have a nice day. So where was I? Something about elephants suppressing must or something. But yeah, there go the rhino tracks. We'll have to come back this evening and look for this rhino. Typical pathway that is taken by Shorthorn, the big bull. He goes up, his tracks go up Vulture's Nest, but then there were those scrape marks up on Nyala Road South. So maybe later today we'll go and look for rhino. I haven't seen today. Kevin, good afternoon to you. You're still with us, New Zealand? Asked a question earlier. Didn't quite get it too well, but now got it. I think the power of a giraffe's kick. I don't know if I could quantify it, Kevin. It is very, very powerful. It has been known to kill a lion. Here's a buffalo. Giraffes kick. They kick both hind and front legs. They can strike out sideways with their front legs. And yeah, giraffes are able to deliver a very powerful kick. You just got to think of it. A hoof that is almost 6 inches long on a leg that is probably 6 feet long. You can imagine how powerful that can be. Good morning, Mr. Buffalo. Already in a wallow, that's only just pulled up. Oxpecker in attendance. Very nice big bull this actually. He's got a huge spread of horns. He's not an animal you want to argue with. Henry. Eyes might have closed down for breakfast already. Now, as potentially dangerous as buffalo can be, and with the reputation that they have, they can be a little uninteresting when they're lying in a wallow, as that is all they really do. Just lie down, chew the cud, have their resident oxpeckers grooming them. Sometimes you find terrapins in the water also picking off ticks. So we'll sneak past him. What's that? There's an oxpecker tugging at something at the base of his horn. Franklin making a bit of a noise behind us. Well, let's move on. Sneak past him. Hopefully he will stay put. Don't want to really disturb him. Try and keep my distance. Crocodile tracks. I'm assuming this would be coming back to Chelapan. Yep. Crocodile tracks coming back. One of the crocs has come back to Chelapan. I wish it'd go a little bit further and get to Gowrie Dam again. We need some excitement around Gowrie. Let's have a look at this reptile here at Chelapan. Looks like a fairly big croc. The bigger one of the two. Come out, wherever you are. That's strange. Tracks lead here, unless it has headed further up towards Gowrie Dam. Unless it's underwater. Wait a minute or two. You've got to breathe sometime, reptile. Something tells me there's something here. Close by. Well, I'm not seeing crocodile. Let's go down Twin Dams Road. See, maybe he did move up towards Gowrie Dam. And those are quite fresh tracks. Maybe he's not even here yet. Maybe he's still walking. Solve that riddle later today. Unless it's here in these pans, I doubt if they're too small. No. There don't seem to be any tracks on this side of the Chelapan. We'll tell Sapiwe to keep an eye out during the day just in case Croc did make it back there. It's debatable whether the Croc would know about this road or not. Probably follow the riverbed if it is going to be going back towards Gowrie Dam. likely to do so along the riverbed rather than this road. Buffalo tracks must be of that big buffalo we've just seen. Been a fun morning with you all. Promising for this afternoon. A lot of places we didn't cover this morning. We'll go and investigate later today. Cloud is battling with the sun. At the moment the cloud is winning. Some pretty low grey cloud in places. We might get a bit of a drizzle during the day. I'll will it away by 3:30 Central African time, when I will be out again. Finding fabulous furry friends. Clunk. All this mud stuck in the bark of this tree from elephant rubbing on it. Also been rubbed very, very smooth. Sometimes you can find an elephant hair or a tick stuck in the mud, although it's been rained on quite heavily. But many, many years of elephant rubbing on this tree. So, everyone, my name is Mark. Herman's been on camera. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us on Wild Earth Safari. I do hope you're going to join us again. And from all of us here at Djuma Game Reserve, bye for now.
Good morning, everyone. It's Craig in Final Control. Hi, everyone. Just checking the sound. This is Craig in Final Control. Thank you for joining us for our AIM Safari. And you can join us this afternoon with Mark and Herman. They'll be heading out again at 3:30 Central African time. They'll be handing over the camera at Gari Dam to Sipiwe, and she'll be looking after you for the rest of the day. So enjoy your time with her, and we'll speak to you again later on.